It was supposed to be a quiet weekend. Just me, my dog Ranger, and the forgotten backroads of North Carolina. I'd been working remotely for too long. Days blurred into nights, and I hadn't felt grounded in months. My boss gave me a few days off, and I didn't waste a second. I tossed a bag in the back of the Jeep and set off. No GPS, just an old state map and instinct. I wanted to get lost. That's how I found Oak Hollow. It wasn't on the map. One minute I was cruising down a cracked county road, and the next I passed a weather-beaten sign half swallowed by the trees. Welcome to Oak Hollow, 1832. The letters were almost unreadable under decades of moss and rain damage. Something about it felt off. But I kept driving. Oak Hollow looked like a town that time forgot. Not abandoned, just untouched. A diner with faded Coca-Cola signs, a gas station with analog pumps, and a church that hadn't changed since the 1800s. I parked and got out, stretching my legs while Ranger sniffed around the base of an old oak tree. The air was quiet, not silent, just still. Like the wind had agreed to leave this place alone. An older woman stepped out from behind the diner screen door. She wore a pale blue apron and carried a rag in one hand, her gaze calm but curious. "You passin' through?" she asked. "Just exploring," I said. "Didn't even know this place was here." "Most don't," she replied. "Oak Hollow's got a way of stayin' hidden." Her words weren't threatening, just a fact. Still, they made the hairs on my arms stand up. I ordered coffee and pie, sat at the counter and asked a few questions. The woman, Lorna, told me Oak Hollow had been small for over a century. People came, some stayed, most moved on. The town never got bigger, never shrank, just remained. As the sun dipped low, casting gold through the diner windows, I asked Lorna if there was anywhere nearby I could pitch a tent. She smiled gently. "If you're the campin' type, there's a clearin' past the hollow oak. Folks call it Lantern Field." That name stuck in my head, Lantern Field. I asked her why it was called that. "They say some nights you'll see a light out there. Thoughtin'. Wonderin'." She wiped the counter, eyes lowered. "But that's just old talk." I wasn't superstitious, but I'd heard stories like this before. Appalachian ghost tales, Cherokee legends, fog and whispers. Gave the place flavor. Maybe even a story I could tell friends back home. So I thanked her, got directions, and drove a little further out, past the oak that split like a clawed hand, and parked in a narrow gravel pull-off. Ranger seemed uneasy, sniffing the air too often, growling at nothing. But I set up the tent anyway, lit a small fire, and made some instant noodles while the forest darkened around me. Around 10 p.m. the first strange thing happened. A breeze moved through the trees, not cold but sharp. Ranger stiffened. His ears perked, and he let out a low, trembling growl. Then I saw it, a faint glow deeper in the woods. It wasn't a flashlight or a lantern exactly. It was more spherical, dim at first, then brighter, then gone. I stood up slowly, unsure if I should call out. That's when I heard the first voice. It didn't come from the light. Came from behind me. "You shouldn't be here." I spun around. No one. Just trees, the fire, and Ranger, who was now completely still, eyes fixed on the woods. "Who's there?" called. No answer. I didn't sleep that night. Around 2 a.m. I saw the light again. Closer this time. Floating slowly, almost lazily through the trees. And I noticed something odd. It didn't cast shadows. My fire flickered against the trees like normal, but the glowing orb just existed, without touching the world around it. Then it blinked out. Ranger whimpered and pawed at the tent, begging to go inside. I stayed awake until the sky began to lighten. The next morning I packed up fast. I wasn't scared exactly, just unsettled. I drove back into town to thank Lorna and maybe grab a coffee before heading out. But Oak Hollow had changed. The diner was shuttered. The windows boarded. The church looked abandoned. No cars, no people. No sound. I drove in circles trying to find someone. Anyone. I parked near the general store and walked around. Dust coated the windows. Shelves were empty. It looked like no one had been inside in decades. Then I noticed the sign near the edge of town, the same one I'd seen when I arrived. Only this time it said, Oak Hollow, 1832. Population 0. I stared at the town sign. Oak Hollow, 1832. Population 0. I felt like I was losing my mind. Just yesterday I'd eaten pie in that diner, talked to Lorna, watched the sun set over cracked sidewalks. But now the place looked abandoned. The windows were boarded. Dust lined the insides of the stores. Not a single person in sight. I got in my Jeep and drove every direction I could find, but no matter which way I turned, I ended up right back in the center of town. It was like the roads twisted themselves when I wasn't looking. Looping. Folding in. Ranger whimpered beside me. His ears were pinned and his whole body shook. That's when I saw him. A man in a black coat and a wide-brimmed hat, standing in the middle of the road. Silent. Will. He raised his hand and pointed. Not at me but past me. Back toward Lantern Field. And blinked. And he was gone. The Jeep's engine sputtered. Dashboard lights flickered, then died. Checked the gas. Me. But I had just filled it yesterday. My chest tightened. I stepped out of the car and tried my phone. No signal. The woods were still. Too still. With no other option, I began walking back toward Lantern Field. The forest path felt different now. Heavier. Like the trees were leaning in. I pushed through until the clearing opened before me. And there they were. Dozens of glowing orbs, floating between the trees. The lanterns. They didn't flicker like fire or LED lights. They hovered, slow and deliberate, casting no shadows. I could feel the air change when they moved. Like each one carried memory. Or wait, Ranger didn't bark this time. He just stared, tail down, body still. Then I saw her. The girl from the night before. White dress. Bare feet. Hair clinging to her face like it was wet. You came back, she said softly. I didn't mean to, I whispered. I was just trying to leave. Her eyes were too old for her face. You stayed too long. Now they remember you. Who remembers? She turned slightly and I saw them, shapes in the woods. Human forms. Some in modern clothes. Others in dresses and vests, from another time. Pale flickering. Up there. They were all forgotten, she said. By people. By time. So they came here. Or were pulled here. I didn't forget anyone. But you looked. You listened. That's all it takes. One of the orbs floated past my face. I felt it, cold and warm at once. Like standing in front of a memory you didn't know you had. You need to leave, she said. Before they claim you. Why me? Because you saw them. Because they saw you. A high, whispering wind cut through the trees. The lanterns started circling faster. The figures in the woods moved closer. Ranger growled low, but didn't run. I can't leave, I said. I tried. Then you need to forget. I shook my head. Forget what? This place. The light. Me. How? But she didn't answer. The light surged. The air turned electric. The forest echoed with distant laughter and crying, rising like a tide. Ranger barked. Loud. Desperate. The girl's eyes flicked toward the sound, and I ran. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stay. Branches scraped my face. Roots tried to trip me. But I didn't stop. Ranger was beside me the whole time, silent now, focused. Somehow we made it to the gravel pull-off. My Jeep was there. I fumbled the keys, shaking. The engine turned. Once. On the third try it started. I didn't look back. I drove for hours. The road didn't loop this time. I reached a main highway, then a gas station, then a town I recognized. Hollow was gone. No sign. No turnoff. Not even a dent in the trees. Later I asked locals. No one had heard of it. Not even old folks who'd lived in the area for decades. That night, I found a forum post from years ago. Saw the lanterns. Stayed too long. Barely got out. If you find Oak Hollow, forget it. Don't stay the night. There were no replies. It's been weeks. Sometimes I see lights in the woods outside my new place. Faint drifting. They don't come close. But they're always there. And sometimes, just as I fall asleep, I hear a child's voice in the dark. You stayed too long.